Hey friends, happy Monday, the 11th of September. Nice to be with you. I'm Father Bill Hill, priest at Holy Spirit Catholic Community in Rock Springs, Wyoming. I'll share with you a reflection on the daily readings. I invite you to click the link down below, read the readings prayerfully, and then turn off the screen, spend some time with God before you move on to other things. We have a reading from Paul's letter to the Colossians and Luke's Gospel today. So we have one of the more enigmatic and mysterious statements of Paul in the scriptures today. It's the very beginning of this passage of the Colossians. Brothers and sisters, I rejoice in my sufferings for your sake, and in my flesh I am filling up what is lacking in the afflictions of Christ on behalf of his body, which is the church. And of course, the question we want to ask, of course, is what is lacking in the afflictions of Christ? The suffering of Christ is itself perfect. But there is mystery here, right? In which we trust that Paul, this inspired author, this inspired teacher of the gospel, is teaching us something that is important for us to know. That in our sufferings, we participate with Jesus. And I think that I can get hung up in my own head about how exactly does this work? What's lacking in the sufferings of Christ? Instead of seeing this through the mystical lens of my sufferings are participating in the mystery of the suffering of the Christ, the dying and the rising of the Christ. And so in my sufferings, I am able to participate in that of the dying and the rising of Christ. So, I don't know about you. How do you do at just sitting with the mystery? Is it a challenge for you like it is for me? How is the Lord inviting you into some of this redemptive suffering, into some of this way of experiencing, Christ in our own afflictions and pain and loss and sufferings? So easy to see the presence of God in the blessings and the good stuff and the easy things. It is much more challenging to see God present to us, including in sufferings, in pain, in trial, and in affliction. If you have ever heard, an old Catholic expression, offer it up, that would be where this is coming from, right? Offer up your sufferings for the poor souls in purgatory. Offer your sufferings up for missionaries in Africa, right? That would be stuff that people heard 50, 70 years ago. Who do you love? What really moves your heart? When you suffer, offer your sufferings for your kids, your grandkids, for priests that are struggling or priests that are straying. Offer it up for, Pope Francis, who bears the weight of the church on his shoulders. Offer it up for folks that are struggling, that feel unloved and cast out. Offer it up for people that are struggling with stuff in the world, whatever. What moves your heart? It's an incredible way. It doesn't take the pain away, but it allows us in the midst of pain and suffering to also hold fast to love, which is incredibly powerful. Okay, the Gospel of Luke. We have another Sabbath dispute. So we had one on Saturday. That one occurred in a field where they were sifting ears of grain. Now we have a public argument in a synagogue between Jesus and religious authorities. And, Jesus point blank asks them if it is allowable to do good on the Sabbath day. And of course, what's being hung up here is legalism, right? Is excessive focus on the letter of the law rather than on the spirit and the nature of the law. And Jesus desires to bring God's grace and God's goodness on the Lord's Day. I want to point something out here though, right? Because you guys know that I can be a bit of a stickler about using the Lord's Day as a day of rest. Jesus isn't asking if he can go and work for his ranch for 6 hours today. Jesus isn't asking if he can, do all of the things in his to-do list. Jesus is asking if he can do service for a neighbor, right? And when we see encouragements towards the Lord's Day, oftentimes we are exhorted that being people of service and care for our neighbor, for the marginalized, for the elderly, for the sick, these are great things on the Lord's Day. We don't do them so that we don't have to rest. We do them to share the goodness of God on the day especially dedicated towards the Lord, right? So just invite you today. You might want to ask how you did this weekend, if you got some rest, if you roll into your Monday even more exhausted than you did before. How are you doing at treating yourself like a creature and a beloved creature rather than a machine? Go, 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 go. Perhaps you want to ask that question, how am I called to incorporate service and care for the marginalized, the weak, and the needy in my observance of the Lord's Day? All right, friends, read those readings prayerfully, turn off the screen, spend some time with God. Happy Monday, y'all. Pray for folks that are having a hard time. God bless.